She used to love mornings. Back in the day, June would wake up before the sun, make a pot of coffee strong enough to wake the dead, and step into her garden with bare feet, feeling the cool earth beneath her toes. That little patch of flowers behind her white fence, she planted every single one, from seed. That was her joy. But by the time she turned 90, mornings felt different. The flowers were still there, but she hadn't touched them in months. Her cane leaned against the wall, unused, not because she didn't need it, but because she didn't have the strength to even get out the front door. Walking across the kitchen felt like a marathon. Climbing the porch steps, unthinkable. Even turning over in bed required effort. She wasn't sick exactly, just tired. A kind of deep, quiet exhaustion that settled into her bones. And no one around her really noticed. Because when you're 90, people just assume fatigue is normal. But that's not the whole story. Because 3 weeks later, just 3 weeks, her neighbor saw something strange through the window. June outside on her knees, her garden gloves on, digging into the soil. No cane, no shaky legs, just her and a pair of hydrangeas. The neighbor blinked twice. Was this real? What happened? That moment, just a quick glance through a kitchen window, would become the start of a story people wouldn't believe. Because June didn't take some miracle pill. She didn't go to a fancy clinic. She didn't spend thousands on supplements. She changed one small thing in her diet. Just one. And that thing was a fruit. A fruit you probably walk by every week at the grocery store. One you've probably eaten before without ever knowing what it was truly capable of. This story isn't about a superfood ad. It's not about hype. It's about a woman who had nothing left in her tank and found her spark again. It's about the science behind how one natural food, often overlooked, can quietly begin to rebuild what aging tries to take away. Strength, energy, and the joy of movement. And no, it's not something grown in the Himalayas or imported from a remote island. Something you can find right now. Probably sitting on a shelf just a few feet from your favorite cereal. And if you're over 60 or love someone who is, this story matters. Because June's not unique. Millions of older adults feel just like she did. Tired, slow, dimmed. And maybe, just maybe, this story is the little flashlight that points toward a way out of that fog. So stay with me. Because what we're about to talk about could be the smallest change you've ever made. And one of the most powerful. June's story hits close to home for a reason. Because if you're listening to this, maybe sitting by your window with a warm cup of tea, or resting your legs after another restless night, you've probably felt it too. That slow, quiet fading. Not an illness, not an emergency, just less energy to get out of bed, less strength to carry the groceries, even the light ones, less desire to go out to call someone to make plans. And then, one day you realize something simple has become a struggle. Like standing from a chair. Like remembering the name of that old friend from church. Like walking to the mailbox and back without needing to sit down after. Doctors often call it age-related fatigue. But what that really means deep down is that your body starts handing over pieces of itself little by little, and no one gives you a manual on how to get them back. You might hear, "It's normal for your age." Or worse, "Just take it easy." But here's the thing, taking it easy doesn't mean giving up. Because what people don't talk about enough is this. Aging isn't a full stop, it's a shift, change. And yes, some parts of that change are hard. But not all of them are irreversible. You see, what most folks never learn is that fatigue, that heaviness in your muscles, that lack of spark in the mornings, often comes not from aging itself, but from what the aging process steals. Muscle mass, circulation, cell strength. Start slow. In your 60s, it's just a little stiffness. By your 70s, maybe your legs tire faster. By 80, your body forgets how strong it used to be. And by 90, like June, you wonder if that strength is even still in there. But here's the hopeful part. The body, even at 90, is still listening. Still responds to care. To nourishment. Kindness. You just have to speak its language again. And sometimes that language is food. Not complicated pills. Not giant changes. Just the right ingredients at the right time. Nutrients that rebuild, reactivate, restore. June didn't know any of that, Not at first. All she knew was that she felt smaller, weaker, like the edges of her life were closing in. And sadly, she thought that was just what the end looked like. Shrinking, settling, watching the world move without her. But it doesn't have to be that way. Because the truth is, you can feel tired without being finished. And now we're going to show you how. Coming up next, what June's grandson suggested, and why this one fruit might quietly be the most powerful ally your aging body has never been properly introduced to. June didn't complain much. She was never one to call attention to herself. Even when her joints ached, when her legs felt like cement, when opening a jar became a small battle, she'd wave it off with a little chuckle. "That's just what happens when you hit 90, she'd say, smiling at nothing in particular. But her grandson, Noah, saw through it. He was 32. A soft-spoken, thoughtful man who had grown up spending summers on June's porch, eating homemade pie and listening to her tell stories about the war, the drought, the great ice storm of '72. He adored her. And lately he could see something was wrong. June had stopped telling stories. She no longer came out to the garden, even when the lilies bloomed, her favorite. She wasn't answering calls as often. And when Noah came over to fix her mailbox, he noticed the stairs looked freshly unswept. That's when he asked gently, "Grandma, when was the last time you felt strong?" She didn't answer right away. She looked down at her hands. Hands that had once carried firewood, braided her children's hair, stirred soup for a whole church. Hands that now trembled when lifting a teacup. "I can't remember," she whispered. That night, Noah went home, opened his laptop and started reading. He wasn't a doctor, but he knew how to search. He read articles, studies, nutrition blogs, and medical journals. He looked up natural ways to regain strength after 80, foods that support muscle in seniors, and how to fight fatigue after 90. One word kept showing up again and again, almost hidden in the fine print of the research. Blueberries. At first, he nearly laughed. How could something so simple, so ordinary be the answer? But the science was there. Rich in antioxidants, packed with anthocyanins, compounds that reduce inflammation, shown to improve circulation, protect nerve cells, and even enhance muscle recovery in older adults. One study even suggested daily blueberries helped slow cognitive decline in women over 70. It wasn't a miracle, but it was something real, natural, and best of all, something June would actually eat. Noah went out the next morning and bought 3 pints of fresh blueberries. He didn't bring them over with a speech. Just a smile and a suggestion. "Let's try adding these to your oatmeal this week. That's it. Nothing fancy. Just see how you feel." June shrugged as if to humor him. But she ate them. Day after day, a handful at breakfast. She didn't expect anything. Honestly, she thought it was a sweet gesture from a worried grandson. But after a few days, she noticed she was sleeping better. After a week, her hands didn't shake as much holding the kettle. After 2 weeks, she walked a little farther, from the living room to the porch without needing to rest. And by the end of the 3rd week, she was in her garden, with gloves on, digging. No one could quite believe it. But the transformation had begun. And it all started with a fruit we usually forget. Up next, what exactly is it about blueberries that makes them so powerful for seniors? And what does the science actually say? Let's be honest. If someone told you, "Eat blueberries and you'll feel younger," it might sound like just another headline on the back of a cereal box. But here's the thing, the story isn't just sweet. It's backed by real science. When Noah read those articles late at night, what kept showing up wasn't hype. It was research, peer-reviewed studies from respected universities. And nearly all of them pointed to one surprising fact. Blueberries aren't just good for you. They're uniquely built for aging bodies. Let's break that down simply. Inside each tiny blueberry is a world of active compounds, most famously anthocyanins. Those are the pigments that give the berry its deep blue-purple color. But they're more than just pretty. Anthocyanins are anti-inflammatory warriors. As we age, low-grade inflammation becomes one of the hidden culprits behind many of our struggles. Fatigue, brain fog, joint stiffness, muscle breakdown. It's like a slow fire inside the body, burning energy, weakening tissue. Blueberries help put that fire out, gently, naturally. Then there's flavonoids, another class of compounds found in these berries. Flavonoids improve circulation, especially to the brain. They help blood vessels stay flexible, improve oxygen delivery, and may even encourage the growth of new neural connections. In plain English, blueberries help your body and brain stay awake, in the truest sense of the word. A 2012 Harvard study found that women who ate 2 servings of blueberries a week had significantly slower rates of cognitive decline compared to those who didn't. Another study showed that older adults who consumed blueberry juice daily for 12 weeks performed better on memory tests. But what about muscles? Strength, the thing June needed most. That's where blueberries get even more interesting. A 2017 study in the Journal of Gerontology observed that older adults who consumed blueberries before physical activity showed greater improvements in mobility, balance, and muscle recovery. The antioxidants appeared to reduce cellular stress and help rebuild tissue after exertion, even light exercise. In June's case, that might explain why, within days of adding blueberries to her breakfast, she started moving better, sleeping better, standing longer. Her body wasn't cured. It wasn't made new, but it remembered how to heal, just a little faster. And that's the real point. Because in older age, we're not trying to become 25 again. We're not asking for six-pack abs or marathons. We're just asking for the strength to walk to the mailbox without fear. The clarity to remember a loved one's voice. The steadiness to stand, to cook, to smile without effort. And sometimes that journey back to strength starts small. So small it could fit in your palm. Half a cup. That's all. A handful of berries that speak the body's language, whispering to tired cells. You're not done yet. And the best part, you don't need a prescription. No side effects. Just a spoon, a bowl, and maybe a little hope. Coming up next, how June made blueberries a part of her daily rhythm, and how you can too. There was no grand plan. No complicated diet, no binder full of instructions, no sudden switch to organic-only groceries. Just a bowl, some oatmeal, and a quiet sprinkle of blueberries. That's how it started for June. Every morning she'd heat the kettle, pour the oats, and just before the cinnamon, she'd reach for the little ceramic bowl in the fridge, full of dark blue orbs glistening with morning dew. Half a cup, that's all. Sometimes she'd stir them in, letting them melt into the steam and soften like jam. Other times she'd scatter them on top, cold and fresh, like little stars in a galaxy of warmth. At first she had to remind herself. 'Twas new. But after the 3rd day, it didn't feel like a chore. Felt like comfort. Familiar. Even a little luxurious. June wasn't counting nutrients. She wasn't checking boxes on a meal plan. She was simply adding something beautiful, something alive to the beginning of her day. And that right there is the secret. Because most people don't stick with what feels difficult, especially not in their 80s or 90s. But what's easy, what feels like joy, that's what becomes a ritual. Blueberries are ideal for that. Why? They don't need to be peeled. They don't need to be cooked. They don't spoil overnight. They taste good, sweet, just enough tang to wake the tongue. You can eat them on toast, stir them into yogurt, freeze them for a cool treat in summer, blend them into a smoothie, or just pop a few while reading the paper. No pressure, no prep, no plan required. And that ease is powerful, because when something feels good, you come back to it. And the more consistent the habit, the deeper the healing. June didn't miss a morning. Not one. Not because she was disciplined, but because she looked forward to it. And within days, her routine began to ripple outward. After breakfast, she'd sit a little longer. Then she started doing the crossword again. Then came the walk to the porch, then the mailbox, then the garden hose. It wasn't the blueberries alone. It was the message they sent. Quietly, lovingly. You still matter. You still deserve care. And your body hasn't forgotten how to feel good. So if you're wondering, how do I start? Don't wait for motivation. Don't wait until you feel ready. Just do what June did. Start small. Start now. Put a bowl by the stove. Buy one container. Rinse a handful. Add them to something you already love. Let your body notice. Let it remember. Because sometimes the simplest things are the ones that stay and heal you one gentle morning at a time. Next up, what happened after 3 weeks, and why her neighbors thought they were seeing things when they looked out the window. It was a Tuesday morning when it happened. The sun had just climbed over the rooftops, pouring gold onto the white fences of June's neighborhood. Birds were chattering like they knew something was about to change. The kind of morning where everything feels quiet, but not empty. June's neighbor Alice was sipping her coffee by the window. Same as always. Chair. Same view. The soft clink of a spoon against ceramic. The hum of the radio low in the background. Then she looked up and blinked. There on the other side of the hedge, bent low in the garden, was a figure in a floppy straw hat, gloved hands deep in the soil. June. At first, Alice didn't believe it. She even squinted, thinking maybe it was a hired gardener. Maybe Noah. But no, the frame was too small. The movements too familiar. That careful way of pressing her palm into the dirt to test its softness. That was June. The woman who could barely step off the porch 3 weeks ago. Now on her knees, humming softly, pulling weeds like she used to. Alice's coffee sat forgotten on the windowsill as she watched, heart thudding in her chest. Across the street, Mr. Harold was walking his dog and nearly dropped the leash when he saw her wave. A big, open-palmed, shoulder-high wave. The news spread quickly, as it always does in quiet neighborhoods. June's back in the garden. She's walking without the cane. She looks brighter. No one could quite explain it. She didn't look younger exactly. But something in her face had lifted. Her eyes sparkled. Her back stood straighter. Even the lines on her skin seemed to settle into a peaceful rhythm, like bark returning to the tree. June, of course, didn't make a big deal out of it. She didn't announce her return or throw some celebration. She just watered the tomatoes, trimmed the deadheads, and talked to the lilies the way she used to. Soft, like they were old friends. But inside something was blooming too. Her sleep had improved. Her appetite came back. She began calling friends again. Even asked Noah to fix the old radio so she could listen to her favorite jazz program. More than that, she felt like herself again. Not perfect, not pain-free, but alive. I don't know what happened exactly, she told Noah one afternoon as they sat on the porch. But I don't feel like I'm fading anymore. That sentence hit him hard, because he realized something deeper. It wasn't just her muscles getting stronger. It was her will to move, to reach, to try. And that spark, once reignited, lit the rest of her life like a match in a dark room. All from a fruit most people overlook. All from a habit so small it barely seemed like anything at all. But as June would later say, smiling over her oatmeal bowl, sometimes hope doesn't come in loud thunder. It comes in a spoonful of something blue and sweet, reminding you to keep going. Coming up next, the bigger picture. Why one fruit won't fix everything, but how it can be the first gentle nudge toward a stronger, fuller life. Let's be clear about something. June didn't turn into a superhero. She didn't suddenly run a marathon or toss away all her medications. She still had days when her knees ached, when her hands trembled a little. She still took breaks, still needed help reaching the top shelf. But the difference? She moved through her day with intention again. Not out of obligation, but because she wanted to. And that shift, it wasn't just about blueberries. They were the beginning, the spark. But what followed was a quiet, steady symphony of other good things. After the blueberries came the walks, short at first, just to the porch, then to the mailbox, then around the block slowly with her wide-brimmed hat and a bottle of water. Next came the stretching. The same move she once learned in a senior center yoga class. Arms over her head, shoulder rolls, gentle turns at the waist. I'm not trying to bend like a pretzel, she joked. Just trying not to rust. Then came the music. Her old records dusted off, filling the living room with memories. She started dancing again. Not big moves, just sways and taps in the kitchen, barefoot with a cup of tea. And all along she kept that one small habit. Half a cup of blueberries every morning. That's the real secret. Not that one fruit changes everything. But that one action, one moment of care, opens the door to another, and another. And suddenly, what looked like a routine becomes a rhythm. A life being lived again, not just endured. We often think change has to be massive to matter. But for seniors, for anyone really, the smallest choices are often the most powerful. Because they're the ones you'll actually do. So if you're listening right now and you're thinking, I'm too tired. It's too late. What's the point? Let me gently say this. You're not too late. And the point is you. You are still here. Still breathing. Still capable of choosing one better thing today than you did yesterday. That better thing might be a handful of blueberries. Or 5 minutes of walking. Or calling someone you've missed. Or putting on music you loved in 1965 and letting your shoulders sway. There is no timeline. No too old. No rulebook that says growth stops at 70 or 80 or even 90. Your body may change. Slow down. Forget how strong it used to be. But your spirit, the part of you that wants, that remembers, just needs a signal, spark, a reason to rise again. And sometimes, that reason starts small, blue and sweet, round and quiet. And it shows up each morning, waiting in a bowl by the window, whispering, let's try again today. Coming up next, one last message. From June's heart to yours. June's story isn't a miracle. It's a reminder. A reminder that healing doesn't always look dramatic. It doesn't come with applause or headlines or instant results. Sometimes it shows up in the smallest ways. So quiet you might miss it if you're not paying attention. Like the first time your legs feel strong enough to carry you to the porch. Or the moment your favorite chair no longer feels like a trap. Or the simple joy of waking up and realizing you're not as tired as yesterday. We live in a world that often overlooks older people. It rushes past them, as if they're fading into the background. But let me say this clearly and without hesitation. You're not fading. You are ripening. And the wisdom, the strength, the stories you carry, they matter. They matter to your family, to your community, and most of all, they matter to you. You don't need to reverse time. You don't need to look 30 again or feel like you did in your 40s. What you need, what we all need, is to feel alive right now. And that starts perhaps with permission. Permission to believe that your body is still listening. Permission to nourish it with kindness, not shame. Permission to try. Even if just a little. That's what June did. She didn't overhaul her life. She just began. With a bowl. With a berry. With a soft promise to herself that she would not go quietly. And now I hope, if you're listening, you feel that invitation too. You don't have to do everything. You just have to do something. Put the kettle on. Play that song you used to love. Open the curtains. Add something blue and sweet to your breakfast. Smile at your reflection, even if your hair isn't the color it used to be. 'Cause you are still here. And being here is enough to begin again. So here's to the mornings ahead. To the strength hiding in simple habits. To the quiet power of half a cup of blueberries. And to you, still beating, still hoping, still becoming.